we're in court. We're in court today because the Daily... But it's so insane, even to repeat it. And I just read this story. Right? I read the Daily Mail's... They went to the Press Awards. I didn't know this, yeah? So they put in at the Press Awards to win awards for their headline upon me. Their headline, which there's no truth in. So pressawards.com, yeah? Tommy Robinson on holiday. Our photographs of Tommy Robinson stoking the flames of the post-Southport race riots from the safety of a Cypriot sunbed became one of the defining images of this summer's disorder. But now, so this summer's disorder, I only found this morning, I wish it would have gone in the film. This summer's disorder, which had nothing to do with me, one of the main optics of that riot is me on my sunbed. Because they purposely put me as a scapegoat for the riots when there was zero evidence, which I've just released a mini documentary last night to show the public. Because what I expect today is that they'll try and gag me. They'll give me conditions from court that I can't talk about this, can't talk about that, and then I'll go through the courts for another year at the cost of tens of thousands of pounds. And this case is based on the fact that journalists tracked my family down and they travelled to Cyprus and then took pictures of not just me, but they put innocent members of my family and friends in the national newspaper article, which had 14 million views, and linking me to the riots, or saying I was instigating the riots, which is, again, there's no truth in. I've never been arrested, detained for anything of that. My messages were clear and simple: to not riot, to not cause violence, not cause trouble. But they purposely put pictures of my family members in their article, and they also followed me with my children and photographed my children. And I don't think it's right. I don't think there's no public interest, and there was no need for them to do that. The result of that resulted in death threats to me, my family. I had to leave the holiday. I was there 2 days. Do you know how much I needed that holiday? I'd waited so long for that holiday, and then I'd waited 4 families. My kids were all so excited. Second day, I thought, right, you've endangered my family. What I do is I follow up on it with videos. So I found out where the journalists were, and I thought I need to question them now. Yeah. So I sent our surveillance teams to check their addresses, and we got surveillance footage on them and on their but some of them was their family coming out of the house. Yeah. So then I sent the journalists the images and said, I don't want to have to knock on your door, but you need to meet me. You need to make this right. I need to talk to you. You've endangered my family. Now, I made it very clear. I'm coming with a camera. You're going to answer questions, and I don't want to come to your house. I made public clear. I now have I've done what they've done. I've got images of their family, but I'm not going to share them. I'm not going to say where they live. And for that, I obviously was in prison when I come home, and then I was in prison about a month, and the police come in to question me about this charge. And when they questioned me, I was sat in amazement, just looking at the bloke. He's like, yeah. And he's telling me, the copper, you've got to see this interview. And he's like, and then you've took photographs of their family. I'm like, well, have you not seen what they've done here? Yeah? He goes, so, and you've done your surveillance, and you've told them you're going to come and ask them questions. And I'm like, yeah. But he only had 1 page of the Daily Mail news piece, and he hadn't even looked at the whole article. So as he's interviewing me, he's not aware they're photoed my family. He's done no research. He hasn't even gone back to what happened at that time on my social media. Yeah? He just took statements from them, and what they've done is, say I sent 10 direct messages to them, which I did, a flurry of messages saying, I need to talk to you, your boss needs to ring me, I'm coming to your door. They just showed I'm coming to your door. So the copper's interviewing me, and he hasn't seen anything else. And I'm like, you need to go and do your job before you come here and ask me questions. You need to understand what's gone on here. I just couldn't believe it. I'm looking at it thinking, you don't work for the Daily Mail. You're a police officer. You're meant to investigate. You've investigated nothing. And you've come and interviewed me. But he's interviewing me, and all the evidence points to the fact that I was going to question them. So what they want is a system where mainstream media, and I believe working with the government, because the government were framing it as the English Defence League, then the media the next day put me as the front page of the paper, and then globally, the riots are mine. So yeah, I'm in court today, but what this does do, I know I am tired as well, because for the last 7 days I haven't stopped. But what this does is it gives me an opportunity to, for the first time, to have a jury. I faced 10 years. It's a 10-year prison sentence. It's a 10-year prison sentence. We've spent £5,000 so far. I ain't even been caught. Cost £5,000. So it's financial terrorism, which is the purpose of it as well. Drains you, tires you, I have spent the last 7 days trying to piece together that film that went out last night. Now, I should be focusing, I want to be focusing on other stuff. Although the film does help to raise awareness of just how terrible they are in their behaviour, as in the journalists, their immorality in the way they behave. But anyway, I think that the purpose of their news on me is to persecute. Been out of jail just over a week. I come out at 78 kilograms. I'm now 85. Chips for breakfast. There'll be loads of Northerners going, chips for breakfast, Tommy. Chips for breakfast. There's not been one time since I opened my mouth in 2009 when I first started my activism, there's not been one day where I haven't been waiting for court. Not one. Now that is a campaign, relentless campaign of state targeting using lawfare as their weapon. Who loves Wendell's personality, eh? I was sitting in the car, I'm really tired, and I was sitting in the car and then I turned on live stream watching Wendell and he's like, yes! He's always happy. Come on.
So Tommy, let's walk down the road and...
Sorry. Reuters News. Leave him. Yeah, leave him. I don't want anyone there, just leave it. Do you know what's mad? You've got all of these cameras, yeah? This is the mainstream media. How many of these people reported on the rape gangs across the UK? None of them. And every one of them knew about it. Every one of them knew about it. These lot, the mainstream media, are going to come here today and they're going to run headlines implying to the public that I threatened violence and scared people. I didn't. They endangered my family, the mainstream media did, the Daily Mail. And I turned the camera on them and said, I'm going to ask you some questions. Now, I'm a journalist. I'm allowed to do that.
ITV.
ITV?
Yeah, I'm ITV.
You're ITV? Okay. Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Did you watch my documentary, Silence?
No.
Hold on, shush. So I made a documentary that had 167 million views. I spent 7 months on solitary confinement. You've come here today to report on me being dragged through the courts again. And as a journalist, you haven't watched that film.
I haven't watched it.
You're not a journalist. You're a propaganda machine. You're not even here to find the news. Okay, what am I here for now?
You're here to go to court about harassing a couple of journalists, was it?
And what do you know about that?
I don't know much about it.
He doesn't know anything about it. Of course he doesn't. Have you watched my documentary that went out last night?
No. I'm the cameraman that's been
Okay, so you haven't.
Going to court.
So you haven't. So basically, you know nothing at all. You're going to come and get your little snippets, and then your pre-written article, which is going to allege and imply to the British public that I've caused fear of violence of men. Yeah, that's what you're here for. You're not here for...
Well, hopefully, will be an unbiased report about you going into court.
You're the ITV.
On ITV, yes.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be unbiased, okay?
Well, it will be unbiased.
I hope it will as well, but if you want to be unbiased, try doing some investigation as a journalist, because you're not a journalist, you're a reporter. You shouldn't call yourself a journalist. You're here to report pre-written articles. You're here to report an agenda. If you was a journalist, you'd have watched my film, you'd have understand why I'm in court today. You don't even know why I'm in court. Cheers, boy. Move. Go up, bruv. How are you, man? Thanks, bruv. What we got?
It's a rotary in there from Dozo.
Accepting his lovely gifts.
Wendell, how are you?
There you go.
So Tommy,
Look at that, eh?
you've just exited from the court. Can you describe exactly what went on in the court?
I moan a lot about judges, but the judge today attempted to defend free speech. The prosecution, the state, wished to impose conditions which, as he said, his words, not mine, curtail free speech. They wanted to be able to gag me totally so that I could not discuss anything about this case. But they also, my bail conditions would have meant that if you discussed anything about this case, they could essentially hold me on remand in prison. So the judge said it was too wide-ranging. He didn't agree with it. And then he told the prosecution you need to reevaluate what you're asking for because it is a curtailment of free speech. So yeah, and then I've been given now the opportunity to have a jury trial. I've never had that. Go and read my conviction list, yeah? What they do every time, and the state did it again today, what they do every time is they drop it, they charge you, and then they drop it so that you can't have a jury trial. And the state said, we don't want it to go to a jury trial today. We're happy and content for it to be heard at the lesser charge. So you have different grades of this charge that they've charged me with. We're happy for it to be at a lesser level because then you don't get a jury. But then the judge gave me the option of what I want. I said I want to be tried by 12 members of the British public. I want them to hear the evidence in this case. I want them to see the behaviour of what's happened to me, the way that the mainstream media have behaved in this. He did give me conditions. So he has given me conditions which I don't want to breach, which still do, I feel, still do curtail my speech. But he didn't want them to totally curtail it. So yeah, I
Tell
don't.
me, what are your conditions?
My conditions are not to mention the names of these individuals. My conditions are not to go into, I believe, details of what's happened. It's exactly, I thought I'd come out of here and won't be able to tell people, explain to people what's gone on. Yeah. So if I wasn't able to do that, which I'm now not, then the cameras in my face now from the establishment media will today run headlines across the country which will imply something that hasn't happened. So then they win anyway. So you're in a war where they'll attack you with their lies, they'll attack you with their smears, they'll attack you with your time. Your time is spent fighting. They said, so now we go to Crown Court on the 3rd of July at Southwark. They believe it will be shifted to the Old Bailey, which is insane. There'll probably be 30 murder trials plus me for asking journalists some questions. I think the reality is, when you turn that camera on the mainstream media, they don't like what they see. And that's all I've attempted to do is say, oh yeah, I'm going to ask you some questions now. And they don't want to be asked questions. And do you know why they don't want to ask questions? Because they have never been asked questions. They have acted with impunity. They've lied, they've smeared, they've attacked. But everyone knows they've lied. I was looking up prior to this at the trust in media across the whole of the European nations, yeah, all the European countries. Britain, the British public, have the least trust. Not the former communist states, yeah, where they know that the media lie, but the British public are now totally awake to the bullshit being fed to them, and their ability to spoon feed their narrative into the public is gone due to, look around you at these cameras, look, due to these cameras, yeah. These cameras, social media, I think if you're sitting at home in the public and you're wondering what role you have to play in what's currently happening, which is a mass awakening of populism, of nationalism, of pride, of patriotism, and it's a tidal wave that they can't stop. If you want to know what role you can play, you just need to share. You need to talk, you need to not curtail your speech, you need to speak freely about all these issues. And unfortunately, they wish to put people like me on trial. I'm on trial for guilty of two things, is being a decade ahead and talking about the issues a decade before. And the people who attacked me for discussing these options, these problems, are now sitting on mainstream TV shows acting like they're bringing it to light. I was saying, hold on a minute. You've crucified us. You've attacked us, but the establishment control the media. They don't want us having a voice. I have to be careful what I say, but we will now have the opportunity to have a Crown Court trial where, thankfully, due to citizen journalism, it won't just be the Daily Mail or the BBC sitting in court. It will be 20 upcoming, rising citizen journalists who are building their own mass followings, who are taking the war, because we're at war, it's a propaganda war being fed, being waged against us by the establishment and the controlled media. And there's a war going on, and the way we fight back is through citizen journalism, and it's good times.